Utah was able to sneak in to the Pac-12 conference championship to take on USC. USC 2.5, 3-point favorite here, over under 67-ish. This game's Friday night, 8 p.m. on Fox in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Look, when I look at this game, there's a couple things. When these two teams met early in the year, Utah won by 1 in a wild game that shattered the total. USC, has one of the 5 best turnover margins over the past 20 years, and it just hasn't stopped. Even last week against Notre Dame, you get a couple lucky bounces. That's the difference in the game. UCLA, you get 4 turnovers. Oregon State, all the bounces. Like these close games, they're getting all the bounces. You'd think it would have to stop at some point, but maybe not. Sometimes these things never regress during one season. But there's some questions on USC. Regardless, their defense is wretched. Notre Dame averaged 8 yards per play last week. They can't stop anybody. They can't stop the run. They won't be able to stop Rising. They can't stop tight ends, which is a nightmare against Kincaid, who went bananas against them in the first meeting. But Utah, Cam Rising, is he healthy? Can he use his legs as much? He's been dealing with an injury. Is Kincaid healthy? That's a major question. And Utah's defense can't stop the run. We've talked about it. They're kind of a shell of themselves of what we've seen in recent years. And as I mentioned many times, Lincoln Riley offense, it starts and ends with the run. And USC's been very good in that department, with or without Travis Dye, and that sets up the rest of the offense. Now, Utah does have a really good secondary that can battle these receivers, and they were able to get some pressure in the first meeting. But yeah, I make this game around a pick-ish. And if you think about it, Utah was a 3.5 to 4-point favorite at home. That's a big home field advantage. And, if at 3, Utah kind of interests me, but just the health of Rising, the health of Kincaid, I don't know. I might just wait to bet this game live. I'm curious to get your thoughts, number one, on what you think of the game. I would also lean over. I don't know who's getting stops in this game, and how you're approaching your hedge of your Utah future.
Well, early in the week, USC was -1 at some shops that opened up, so I was able to get some down there. I am going to take half of my Utah future and place it on USC, even though I think Utah covers this game and has a great chance to win again. The problem is you can't handicap this USC team looking at their penalties, at their second order win total. And frankly, what Caleb Williams is doing outside the pocket is, you just can't cap it, right? These busted plays where he's rolling all over the place. The Utah defense is just going to have to be on point. And the loss of Tavian Thomas, I'll start on the offense for Utah. The loss of Tavian
And by
Thomas,
the way, when he's doing that, they're not they're not calling holding on USC. They're not calling a legal man downfield. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if USC gets any penalties this week.
And we're trying to handicap the Pac-12 refs here, right? Do you want your conference to go to the college football playoff, or are you going to piss down your leg as a conference like you have almost every single year since Washington made the playoff back in 2016? As for Utah, Tavian Thomas, I don't think the loss of him is really that substantial. When you look at Jaquindon Jackson, he's been explosive and elusive, 4.5 yards after contact on 53 carries. He moves like a Grand Prix, like a race car when he goes down the field. I know the defense, the highlights, if you go and look them up, the highlights are against the Colorado defense, but he is still extremely fast out of the gate. And the USC rush defense is terrible. They're bottom 5 of the nation in success rate. Anybody can run on this USC defense. But you're right. All eyes should be on Dalton Kincaid. He had, when we handicapped this game before, and when we handicap every Utah game, especially against Oregon, it's about the 12, 13, and 14 packages. It's about the tight end sets that they come out there. It confuses every Pac-12 defense. It's just not something that a lot of Pac-12 offenses run. And Dalton Kincaid had 234 yards, a season-high 16 targets against USC. They don't come back and get that touchdown, and Cam Rising goes for a 2-point conversion without Dalton Kincaid. If he's not playing in this game, I don't like Utah's chances to try to keep up here. And it should...
Because we know USC can't stop tight ends, because a week after getting torched by the UCLA no-name tight end, they knew what Notre Dame wants to do is throw out to Michael Mayer, and he had a huge game and 2 touchdowns. So if Kincaid's healthy, he's going to get his.
Yeah. I think one thing where we might disagree, and I can see that the market is disagreeing with me, and I'll take the last number, is that USC has done things as a team offensively that you would connect the dots and make them an under team. And the reason is because during that Utah game, they would line up in 10 personnel, no running backs. I'm sorry, no tight ends, 1 running back, and they would just be 4 verts, read it to Travis Dye, let it go. That's changed. Now they run 11. They run a ton of tight end, and they have a rush rate that is increasing by the week. And you would think with Travis Dye injury that wouldn't be the case, but Austin Jones had 25 carries against Notre Dame. USC is running the ball a lot, and the philosophy there is get Caleb out of 3rd and scramble, right? Keep him from having to be behind the chains all the time. Austin Jones has been great, but at the same time, when you turn into an 11 personnel from a 10 personnel and you're running a lot more, that eats up a lot more clock, and it shaves off a couple possessions per each team. So I think that is one big key factor for USC you got to watch for. Now, listen, we went over against Notre Dame because there was like 30 points in the 4th quarter. So these things keep happening where defenses can't keep track of Caleb Williams, and he keeps on making these plays. But you mentioned that Utah's defenders or secondary were able to keep up. And that's the reason that Caleb Williams struggled against Utah. Nobody put more pressure, more hurries, and more sacks on Caleb Williams than Utah did. And I don't think it's because their defensive line is especially good at a pass rush. It's because they covered everybody in the backfield. So I lean to the under. But I'm willing. I mean, I've lost this under bet against USC so many times, where I need Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be the best defense, it's just amazing to me that these USC games, the way that they played out. But I do like the under from the perspective that USC is running the ball a lot more, and Utah is going to be able to be disciplined in their coverage and make Caleb Williams have a tougher time throwing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play the over just because I'm not sure how healthy Rising is. I mean, yeah, he looked great against Colorado, but who doesn't? And I don't know how healthy Kincaid is. That'll keep me off the over for sure. I don't show a ton of value in it anyway.